Hey everyone, this is Teresa. I am beginning a project just thinking about March and April and spring. And one of my childhood memories is all of the dandelions that would be out in the yard. And as a kid, I was always fascinated with the little yellow blooms. And then every child loves picking those dandelions and just blowing on those and watching all those little seedlings scatter through the wind and just land and ultimately creates more dandelions and weeds and things that the adults wish weren't there, and just kind of make the yard not look so nice. But kids love dandelions. I love dandelions. So I was inspired to paint a field of dandelions, and I'm just going to lay in some base colors here, kind of showing those dark tones in the background, and just kind of building the background. The very back of this is not going to be prominent because that's not really the focus of this piece. The focus is going to be the dandelions. So these are truly just base colors. So I'll just mention here that this is an 8x10 canvas board or canvas panel, and I've prepped it by marking off the edges with about 1/8 of an inch and certainly no more than 1/4 of an inch of taping that off, so that when I begin to put in the color and I finish my piece, I've got a nice crisp edge. And I also took some gesso and prepped my board and had that go over onto the painter's tape, so that when I begin to lay in the color, none of that color will seep under. You know, the canvas boards have a lot of little dips and crevices, and it would be real easy for any color to kind of sneak under there. But if I prep it with the gesso and have that overlay on the tape, then I won't have that issue, and I'll get a nice crisp edge at the end of my project. So as I'm laying in these foundation colors, in the distance I have the darkness of what can be imagined as whatever you want it to be, and then I imagine the sunlight kind of streaking through there and some woods in my mind's eye. But the things that are in the background, again, as I said before, they're not the focus. It's just the background. And as we move into the landscape, we have the color yellow is being used because that's where I imagine it's really dense with the dandelion blooms, and we'll put in the indications of those white puffs. And as we move forward in our landscape, the colors are becoming darker because we're going to be able to see between the dandelions, and we'll need that darker depth as we're more up close and personal with the puffs and the blooms. Now comes the fun part. We're going to start placing in our different puffs throughout the different variations of the landscape, imagining the things that we can see at different sizes. Sort of midfield, they're going to be one size, and the further in the distance they are, they'll be smaller sizes. And the nice thing about these puffs is you don't have to be perfect. They can be very imperfect and very carefree and very light and very small, and just little indications, little spots all along the way. And as we begin to move closer to them, you'll see a little more of how imperfectly round they are, as those little seedlings or fruit in fruit little pods um, kind of are various shapes the closer we get to the little puffs. So we're just laying in all those little white puffs right now. I noticed that the light rays, the sunshine rays, needed to be enhanced a little bit, so I just went back and added a few random streaks through that just to give a more pronounced effect of that sunlight coming through. And then I came back to working on those puffs and kind of placing a little more detail to them as we move closer in toward the front part of the landscape, and just kind of shoring up the tight color in the center of them and keeping the outer edges of it lighter. Now it's time to start laying in some blooms, and I've taken some more golden kind of yellow and mix a little bit of brown in there and just begin to kind of dot those in the distance and begin to really flesh this out with more color, these pops of golden yellow and yellow brown, so that we have both some depth and some highlight, but just to really bring that essence of those blooms into the landscape. And then I began just going back and forth between the yellow colors with the brown, and also picking up some of the white just to really kind of fill in the density of that landscape in the background, because as the field is further away, you don't really see the individual blooms. You just see indications of color. But instead of just swiping through color, I really wanted to just build the colors with the individuality of the blooms and the puffs, and just really kind of fill it in so that I get a more natural effect. And for me, it just is easier mentally for me to just build that up as I go. Then, as we move closer toward the forefront of the landscape, we'll begin to see more individual indications. And so the dots, the yellow, the brown, the white, they become more dispersed. They just go from being more solid in the distance to becoming more individual and separated mid landscape, is a good way to say it, I guess. And we just begin to see not the details, but more individual colors. And we're saving all those fine details for when we really front and center in the forefront of the landscape. And then I began thinking about the shapes of those blooms. And you know, those dandelion blooms, they're really kind of flat and their little petals are more spiky. And so I began to give those shapes as we're moving more toward the forefront. And then on some of these little puffs, I'm adding in some brown in the center to give that effect of that very central part of that stem where those white little seedlings are attached to. I begin to kind of lay those in, and then I add a little more white on top of those to soften that and really give it that effect of the transparency of the dandelion, that you can kind of see that stem, but then you really still see the white. And just wanted to go back and add a few more of the white in the distance. And now we're really going to start laying in our detailed blooms as we are now in the more forefront area of the landscape, and just having them be in different angles, but keeping the blooms as flat and as, you know, the spiky petals as much as possible. I'm not still worrying about a ton of detail at this point, but I'm really trying to just placing in my blooms before I lay in the more detailed and the more significant puffs that are in the foreground. And you know, I think it's important to keep in mind that these blooms can be different sizes and shapes, even in the very foreground of the landscape, because flowers and blooms that are in nature are never the same. They're not cookie cutter shapes, they are very much individualized. So I have that freedom, I feel that freedom in this foreground to make them different sizes and positions and levels of spikiness or more flat, because it's really for me at this point about them not being the same and keeping them individualized, um, and just really allowing that to be a more natural effect. And as we really begin to get closer to details in the foreground of the painting, we're laying in some stems to our blooms and what will be the stems for our puffs in front and center. And now we're laying in the stem work for our prominent puffs, and really kind of still using the yellow brown color, but keeping things darker where it's going to be more shadowed, and adding a little more yellow where it's going to be lighter, and just blending into that brown for the very central part of the puff. And I'll be having these going in a few different directions too. Just really trying to keep it as natural as I can make it. Now we're going to lay in that puff area, just kind of making a halo effect around that pod in the center, keeping the paint more thin through that part. And we're going to really thin it down so that we can make it more transparent over the center. I'm adding in some titanium white and just kind of stippling in some of this paint to give the effect of the seedlings and the puffiness of the dandelion. Just giving it some texture look and dimension. And it's amazing how just these little details go such a long way. We'll add just a few in front of the brown center pod of the stem so that your mind's eye will envision the fact that that really goes all the way around that center and not just a halo. So as we near the completion of this project, you may ask, what am I going to do with this? So let me let you in on a little information here. So I've created this for my monthly faith package. Every month I write a devotional and have a scripture of the month that support the artwork that I've created and is ultimately the primary inspiration for the artwork. So let me show you how it all turned out. In fact, I'm going to show you how I package it. So I have my finished artwork. It's a matted 5x7, 2 greeting cards, a pen with stickers, and the devotional card that I decorate so it can be used like a bookmark in your Bible or in your favorite book. On one side it has the verse of the month with beautiful paper and stickers and embellishments, and on the other side it has the devotional. And inside the cards, the greeting cards, the verse of the month and the devotional are included. And then I've created these stickers from the artwork, and they are inside with the pen, and then I've also sealed the whole package with one of those stickers. And these are certainly available for you to get in on the subscription. And trying to get things just a little bit closer here so that you can see a little better the finished product. And there it is, how it all looks when we put it all together. And this is just such a joy to create every month. I just can't tell you what it has done for me and the feedback I hear from those who subscribe and what this has meant to them as well. And at the end of the video, there will be a QR code that you can scan if you would like more information about joining in on the subscription and receiving this every month that you can use in your home to decorate your home or give as a gift. And I'm telling you, this world today, we need to encourage one another. And so the cards are perfect for sending little notes of encouragement to someone and just letting them know that you care about them, that you're thinking about them, that they matter, and to just let them know that they have a friend and they're not in this life alone. They can come to you. And this, some of my subscribers have said that when they get the package in the mail, it's like Christmas for themselves. It's a special treat for them, and they're always so excited to see what's inside this month's package. So be sure to scan that QR code at the end so that you can see how you can get one of these packages every month and be not only a blessing to yourself, but be a blessing to someone else. And I work really hard to make it a treat and keep it very fun and very special because you're special.